Today, I'm joined by Natalie Hogg, the founder of Method Q, an agency that's renowned for applying this scientific method to marketing. Natalie, I'm super excited to geek out here with you today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much for having me. And geek out is the right word there. I've always called myself a marketing nerd. So that's why I like to add the science into marketing.
Yeah, I was telling Luisa, I think she's on your team. She does PR
Yeah.
for you, I believe, right? When I
hmm
connected with her, and she was talking about, the methodology and data and the science behind everything. I was like, oh, we're gonna have some fun because that's something that's really interesting to me. And so I'm excited to get into that a little bit. But before we do, I'm curious, what has been the number one growth lever that's allowed you to scale your agency to where you're at today?
Good question. I think, like most people, when they start an agency, they build their business on relationships. I'm lucky enough to have great relationships. That's I don't even have a sales strategy. I just have a relationship commitment. And then it sometimes most of the time it turns into some form of business at some point in time when it's required. And so we're 4 years old, so we'll end this year over 3 million in revenue. We have over the last 4 years, marketing has changed a whole lot and business decisions and buying behaviors have changed a whole lot. So what we're selling really well or a lot of when we first started is a lot different than what we're seeing now. But generally, I've found the biggest gap and where people are like, "Oh yes, I need to work with you." Method Q is they're looking for a partner, not just an agency, who can really understand the pain points that they're experiencing in house and apply the marketing and sales mentality into the marketing strategy. So the more that we can speak revenue and help fill in the gap where, if a team is hiring us and they don't do everything in marketing, they kind of want us to be able to do everything in marketing, helping to be the person that sees what they need and then supplies it. It kind of eases a lot of concerns from the team of, okay, this is a partner that knows what I need and knows how to figure out how to get it for me. So, I mean, I think there's two different types of customers. There's ones that are, "Hey, I need you to tell me what I need and then to provide it for me." And the other one is, "Hey, I know what I need. Can you provide it for me?" And I think we fill in those different gaps depending on the scenario.
Got it.
Is that kind of what you were looking for? Or you were looking for like specific services?
No, I think just like what has allowed you to continue to grow and scale. So I think that's perfect. One follow-up question to that in regards to like your services, are you then a full stack agency or do you guys specialize in a certain discipline of marketing?
Yeah, so we have become full service, and then that's debatable whether that's scalable or not. So we are looking to specialize in certain areas where we're really good at before we continue to sell forever full service. But there are exceptions to the rule because we're a fully outsourced marketing team. In some cases, people can't afford the full team, so they kind of need us to plug and play with that specialized talent as needed and as their needs evolve and change. Typically, like an owner or a CRO, which we could talk about revenue all day long, is they know they need to get somewhere and they're under pressure to get there, whether that's through investors or their own ambitious goals if they're the only owner. And they just want someone to help them figure out how to get there and to make the best bets. So the more you can think through what their outcome is and then be able to translate all the little parts of marketing that they don't want to know all the details of into helping them achieve their outcome, the more we become a partner for them that they want to continue to invest in. It really is established with trust as much as possible.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. You're essentially operating as an arm or a leg of the business,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
to
I think that's
trust
a really
that
good.
arm can do that.
That's interesting. I've never heard that put it in that terminology, but yeah, I think that makes sense. You need an arm or a leg to get to where you're going. And, you know, most of the people are just, help me figure out how to make sure it's attached and we're going forward so that I don't get fired or I get promoted. Some of my favorite client experiences are seeing someone go from, like, I saw one of our clients go from a director of marketing to a VP of marketing to CMO to COO. It's really cool to see that line. You really rarely see a director of marketing become a COO for one. I mean, marketing is not seen as operations, even though it is in an organization. But because she was naturally business minded and so were we, and she could identify where she didn't have skills or her team didn't have skills and we were able to plug in, she could take all the credit. That's fine. I would love for her to get promoted based on the work we were able to provide and make her look good. So the more marketers I can get promoted or hired, great. Because a lot of scenarios, companies will hire us who don't yet have a marketing team because they don't know where to start. So they ask me, hey, what do I need? How do I do it? Can you do it for me? Yes. And at some point in time, they need more hands on than we could possibly provide, but we can continue to provide that filler support that's a little bit more fractional while they have a full-time talent as they grow and scale beyond certain stages. Businesses are at different stages and they need different forms of marketing. So yeah, we do sell a little bit of everything today. I don't know if that's what we'll do forever. I think to the agency owners out there, like it's really great to sell until you realize which systems are broken internally, and then it's not as fun to sell because you want to do really good job and retain. And so we've been great having great clients that have worked with us through some of our growing pains, but it's really important to me to have really valuable outcomes that people are paying for. You're expecting an ROI on your marketing investment. And so right now I'm really focused on operational excellence in every bit of the way, especially as marketing has changed so much fundamentally. So my personal background is in PR and content, and then demand gen led on to that. So right now, that's more valuable than ever. The way that people buy is all content driven right now, with the rise of AI and search engine optimization moving more towards answer engine optimization. And so that's a whole other topic, scientific topic we could discuss today.
Yeah, we could definitely go down that path. You mentioned something, Natalie, that I'm curious and would like to explore a little bit. But before doing so, I just want to make sure I have clarity. Who is typically the type of business or client that is coming to you for support? Like, are they local businesses? Are they, tech businesses? Are they VC funded? Who does the best with that?
Yeah, so we started our business mainly focused on long sales cycles, B2B, so the financial technology and cybersecurity space. So that's where actually the majority of our clients are. They're usually selling to enterprise level clients. So that's a very sophisticated marketing engine and multiple different operational structures within marketing. People underestimate how many industries are in marketing. I think there's arguably 10 different industries within marketing, even though you might call it one operational unit of a business. And so, but more recently, because of that operational rigor of really understanding how people purchase and how many touch points it takes for someone to make a purchasing decision and how you stay in front of them, it's broadened. So we all have music streaming service clients. We have companies that sell tools that, they sell to plumbers. We have e-commerce companies. So some B2C clients as well. But what's similar is people that are looking to go from unaware to aware and automate as much as possible that digital buying journey while still keeping it personalized. Because what I'm finding the biggest challenge with marketing right now is there's so much noise out there. There's so much AI that can be very valuable, but it's now being overused. So people are inundated with junk messaging and ignoring it. So what used to take, I don't know, 20 to 40 touches is now taking over 100 because you're ignoring half of it with all the emojis and the M dashes, which funny enough, I actually love an M dash, but GPT kind of ruined it. So it really takes the heart that you put in marketing, that quality content and communication of, exactly what people are interested, what their pain point is, and how you're overlapping with why they need to talk about their pain point when. That authentic buying journey is really the real heart of marketing.
Got it. And you developed a proprietary methodology to do just that, from my understanding, right?
Yeah, so my granddad actually is part of the team that invented direct deposit. I didn't know this until he was like close to his deathbed. I hadn't gotten really close to him until later in life and found out that he was like an extreme entrepreneur and then talked about the fact that he invented direct deposit with the US government. And so I think that partially inspired me. My dad also owned a business growing up. So thinking about how you give back to the economy and capitalism in a way that is conscious, I think is really important. So anyway, with that, I developed something called, or I trademarked the applying the scientific method to marketing because a lot of my career got started with people that were marketing skeptics. And I'm a very creative, very analytical person. I grew up as a musician, which actually combines those two things perfectly. And so applying, leading and lagging indicators to the gray area of marketing really helps facilitate a conversation with a marketing skeptic. And those marketing skeptics can come in the form of engineers, of sales people, of CFOs, of CEOs, of board members. Typically, like PE firms are driving the investments in businesses and they're making decisions based off a spreadsheet and a slide deck. So they're not in the weeds of all the different things you need to do in marketing. So, how can all the things you need to do in marketing be put into a system that can then be reported on a leading and lagging indicator basis? There's probably hundreds of KPIs you could track that show, am I making money or am I wasting money? So we typically try to choose a good 5 to 20 for a client to focus based on what their goals are so that we can report on that. So the scientific method has, observe, ask questions, research, hypothesis, execution, analysis, results. So when we work with a client, we're typically we're very curious. We ask, where are you actually going and why are you going there? Is it, really getting to the weeds of, are you looking to become profitable? Are you looking to sell your business in the next few years? That all helps drive what you actually need to do. Because in the day, yeah, everyone needs a revenue goal and they want to be profitable, but the path in which they need to get there and the pace in which they need to get there influences how much money you need to spend in marketing and where you need to spend that money. So I like to apply it through, our system, which I'm looking at it right now of, those different steps. So if our hypothesis is, how can we potentially, maybe they're looking to grow beyond their base. They've been around for a little while. They've been selling the same amount of revenue to the same audience, but they want to see if they can go into an adjacent market. Hypothesis would be, well, could we increase revenue by X amount targeting this other audience, knowing that there's, let's say, 1,500 accounts that we could target over the next 90 days. That hypothesis is what we align on. And then the methodology and how you test that hypothesis lines up very nicely in the marketing and the marketing science behind it all. And then that requires, you know, different tactics. And that's where we come into what services are we actually selling to your earlier question.
Got it. Okay. So that's where you start to really geek out on the numbers and the data.
Yeah, I think it's so important to be able to contextualize marketing in something that makes sense to a business owner. That's where I find is the biggest gap with there's so much jargon in marketing and I'm a nerd. I like all of it. I would love to talk to you about buying behaviors and how people do their research and all what the touch points are and the best type of subject lines or any of those tactics. You can get real into the weeds or you can go real broad. Either way, people's eyes can glaze over for the people that are paying the bills usually. So how do you communicate it from a business perspective and where the pressures are coming from that business perspective and the business needs? The easier you can communicate it, the better. And then execution against that communication is super important and consistency around it. So part of the reason why I got to where I am today is because I've hired the right team. I've had the pleasure of finding the most amazing talent and I spoil them as much as possible. We have great benefits. We have a great culture and we're looking to scale with intention so that culture doesn't break over time because growing is fun, but not if it's stressing everyone out. So finding the balance between growth, fulfilling the promises we've given to our clients and continuing to grow. I have this ambition. I can't stop. I have to find that perfect balance to where we're doing right by the client and I'm doing right by my talent.
I love that. I think it says a lot about you and like not just your work ethic, but like your moral compass about if you're going to bring somebody
Yeah.
on, you want to make sure and actually deliver results and serve them. So that's pretty powerful.
I mean, especially if this business has been operating mostly on my relationships, I take it personally. But as we go beyond that, I'm still going to take it personally. I think it's really important to have a trusted brand, just like I would tell my client who you want people to want to buy from you and to want to continue to buy from you. I feel the same way about Method Q. I want people to want to buy from us, to trust us, and continue to buy from us. And it to be a partner, I like to give first. That's how I operate. One of our values too is how do you continue to give back For every new client we get, we dedicate time to a nonprofit or to mentorships. I think that's really important. The more clients I can attract that also do the same thing, the even better. That'd be great. But yeah, definitely I have a values driven business ethic. And I think it's really important to to not break promises with clients. If you say you're going to do something, if we've agreed on a hypothesis, we're explaining and doing things around that hypothesis that we agreed on. And if we need to pivot, we're explaining that properly because marketing changes so fast. You have to be able to pivot, but you can't pivot, too often or you're not fulfilling out the search of the hypothesis.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So you mentioned relationships and relationship selling and, giving value first. As you're thinking of scaling and growing, how are you looking at transitioning from like founder-led relationship sales into like what the next evolution is?
Yeah, so I think I have hired sales in the past. It's you can't sell and grow without the proper infrastructure. So I think I need to continue to sell as the agency owner for a period of time until we have very clean operations and I have a scalable sales process in place because I have had sold based on relationships with people. And I, typically go to a lot of events. I'm a speaker. So I meet people at events. So those aren't necessarily like long-term relationships, but like they are newer relationships to me without that much of a history. That's not scalable. Natalie going to speak on a panel is not scalable. So until I figure out that sales infrastructure that's scalable, I'm not going to hire again and someone in sales until I can properly train and coach them to scale with selling how you sell method Q. Because a lot of salespeople are great at selling, but it's my job to make sure that people know how to sell method Q and people that know what method Q is and the vision. So my focus right now is really making sure in order to scale ethically, I'm properly communicating my vision, having people buy into it and understand it, and then building out processes around that as a pure coach and visionary before, I bring in people to the fire of selling and growing without a purpose. So it's a hard decision to make as an agency owner. And like I've tried it a few different ways, but right now that's kind of where I'm settling is and I find if you have a really good team and really good outputs, it kind of starts selling itself. And it's better to sell without risking your reputation than to sell fast and not deliver upon what you've sold. So that's kind of where I am right now, which is a good place to be. And I've learned some good and bad lessons along the way because I've not scaled the business prior to this one. But I love the challenge and I think I'm figuring it out. I surround myself with people smarter than me every day.
I love that. And I think that's super valuable for any other agency owner that's listening. I think there's kind of two types of agency owners. There's the founder-led sales, strong agency owners that want to hold on to it forever. And then there's the ones that are trying to get it off their plate as fast as possible. And most of the time on the latter, it's like you can't bring somebody in to sell something if there isn't a proven process. So I love that you said, like, I want to work on my systems. I need to have my
Yeah.
operations in place because that's something I see all the time is like, if you have 8 different services and you have 8 different avatars, that's 64 different ways of making one offer to work with somebody. So bring in a new rep. I don't care how good they are. That is an immense amount of complexity in a process that it's usually a recipe for disaster. So,
Oh, yeah. I completely agree with that. And I think that, sure, I want some things off my plate, but you can't do that responsibly without doing exactly what you said. But the biggest thing I think where I've learned too with scaling is trying to get more and more client work off my plate because I'm still doing a lot of client work and I enjoy marketing. I enjoy it. But that's not scalable either in certain phases. So coaching what I think I can do really well to someone who could also do it well and probably better is where I need to be spending my time. And sometimes that feels like you're going backwards if you're trying to get something off your plate. But every time I haven't invested in it, I end up having to do it anyway. If I'm just like, okay, finally I have someone to take it, that's irresponsible. And so I've learned that the hard way a few times. And so, I really do encourage everyone to just try to be patient and really refining and communicating and coaching, even that takes more time. It pays off way more than hiring fast and delegating fast and then it ends up failing.
yeah, I'm noticing a common theme here, Natalie, that you really want to develop. You find talent, you want to develop talent, you want to empower them. internally, I think that's what will keep people sticking around long term because the
Yeah.
enemy of any agency is churn, right? Whether it's employee or team member churn or whether it's client churn, either way, it's not a good thing to have.
Yeah, it's tough to lose a client or to lose talent. It's really tough. And so for me, the more you can pour into what you already have or make hard decisions more quickly if you don't have what you need, whether that's taking a risk on hiring someone new that you know has experience is maybe a little bit more expensive, but are you making an investment, a bet into where you want to be, not working with what you have? So it's hard to make all those decisions and it depends on the scenario in which decision you make. But for me, like we have our zones, like we call it our different zones of genius, which is our values. And so I think my dream is to hire people that love their job and love what they do. And they're 100% successful at it because they're in their zone of genius and it gives them energy. It doesn't drain them of energy. There's always going to be frustrating clients or frustrating processes or, situations where you disagree with a coworker. But if you love what you do and and you have a scenario in which you can show up loving what you do and the flexibility to do it, the client's gonna be happier, the employee's gonna be happier. I mean, and that's how we can contribute to the economy in a positive way and control the controllables. So, yeah, I think it's really important. Have I nailed it this whole time, these last 4 years? No, I've messed up a few times, but, I learn from that, I admit that, and I grow from that, and people have stuck with me across a lot of change, and, it's been worth investing in them and them investing in me for us to get to where we are today. So I don't think we could have gotten to where we are today without really dedicated, really talented talent to partner with me and to help fill in gaps across the board. Another one of our values is, you show up every day 100%. And if the client should always see 100%, but if you're not 100%, maybe you're at 60% today because you're not feeling good or because your kid had to come home or, you know, you're vulnerable and you tell the team, "Hey, I'm at 60% today. Someone else, we are all willing to come in and step in so that the client sees 100%, even if it's 3 people instead of the 1." I don't wanna burn people out just because I want the client to experience 100%. So that culture of accountability and collaboration, I think, is also really important and really important in a creative space like marketing. So, yeah, I think culture and investing in talent and pouring into them is super important.
So much gold. So much gold.
Is it it is am I giving you any
Yeah.
good con
Yeah. No, this is going to
Oh,
be
that's
great.
funny.
So we've spoken about business and marketing data. I'm
Mm,
curious, what are the areas of life that you've had to master on this journey outside of business?
that's a really good question. Didn't have a life for 3 years, probably 3.5 years. This year has been the wake-up call. That's not sustainable. So, I actually, in the beginning of this year, made some really strong investments in myself where, I have a dedicated routine every day and I don't compromise on it. And that has kind of opened up a whole bunch of things where I can't compromise anymore because I find if you sacrifice yourself for too long, I have a lot of drive. At some point, I'm not showing up fully for people that are looking to me to make decisions that are the hardest decisions. I get all the complaints and all the hard financial decisions, and if I'm not in the right space, I'm not making the right decisions. And again, that's the responsibility of a leader that I focus in on. So I have to focus on myself. And so yeah, I wake up every day around 5 a.m. I read every day, I work out, I meditate, I try to spend some time outdoors. I try to spend some time having fun. A little bit of those things every day are really important to give yourself a stronger foundation so you can show up for people. But, I was traveling. We have clients all over the world. I think you asked me that earlier and didn't actually answer. We have clients all over the world in Germany and France and Prague and Canada. And so I found myself traveling to Europe like once or twice a month. So I was always on the go, always in a different time zone, always whining and dining. And it was so much fun until I ran out of Natalie. And so if I look back, I wish someone had told me it's okay to pace yourself. Now I know that. And that's why I'm kind of really focused on slowing down without slowing down. Like, I don't think you have to slow down significantly and start over, but if you don't slow down and focus and invest on yourself as a leader and make sure that you're coming from a good place when you're making decisions, not from a stressed place or a fear based place, that's the best way to make sure that you are scaling. So we went from, yeah, I was doing really great the first 2 years and it was, hey, this is so much fun, to realizing, oh, okay, now this is a business. I have to scale it. I have to go figure out the payroll system and all these things. You get past the honeymoon phase and, then you're worried about payroll every now and then because it's cash flow and you get all those things going. And then you get to the point where you figure out what you don't know, and then you hire people, and then you waste money or you make the wrong bets, because if you're making decisions out of fear, you're not making the right decisions in my experience. So I went from, extremely profitable to not profitable to now I'm profitable again. And I think the reason we're very profitable right now and investing more in operations, I'm able to invest my profit back into the business, back into hiring talent, back into elevating talent and operational efficiencies. That allows I attribute that to my own mental health and my physical health and everything that I've invested in myself this year. I'm making better decisions that aren't based in fear. They're based in, I don't know, like pure, I don't know, like faith, drive, excitement, commitment. If you think about what's driving your decision, that's really what you should be questioning more than anything else. In my experience, I've learned it the hard way. So yeah, there's been a lot of life decisions. So I don't travel as much. If I can't be there, I've moved away from feeling bad for not being there to being like, well, they're just going to have to get me the way that they get me, and I will do my best with what I have. But it's not going to be to the point where I'm sacrificing too much of myself, because that's irresponsible. And so a lot of that takes a little bit of discipline and like investing in yourself, loving yourself. And it's totally worth it if you're going to scale long term. Otherwise, you're going to burn out, because I almost did completely.
Thank you for sharing such heartfelt, passionate, but I think really raw and true, valuable advice.
Yeah. I mean, anytime. It's important to be transparent, and transparency doesn't sacrifice success. So why not just be there for each other and as a community?
If anything, I think it helps success because people can relate more and
Yeah. Yeah.
they're like, man, Natalie felt what I'm feeling right now, or she felt what I felt before. Like there's a
Mm.
level of relationship that happens, right? Like so powerful. Getting ready
Yeah,
to
I
wrap up.
remember I was on a podcast about my agency like a year and a half in, and I just hit like over 1 million. And the answers I had then were like, "Oh my god, everything's great. I just go out of town, my team figures it out. It's awesome. I hired the right people." And now I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I had to like that worked for a minute, but it doesn't scale." So, you learn the ups and downs of scaling, and like at some degree that's working today, but in a different way, because we're having processes in place. I've invested in some of the not as fun things to do if you're the visionary, right? The right payroll and benefit system, the right operational SOPs, the right way that you should communicate to the client, the right use. You got to make sure everything's consistent. And we haven't figured it all out. We're continuing to figure it all out, but I haven't been burnt out like I could have been if I just gave up on all of it. So it's just funny. If anyone wants to talk about and I'd love to talk to people that have gone beyond where I am right now, but the 1 to 4 year difference is just insane. So I just think it's hilarious looking back. So there's hope.
There's hope. Keep going. Build your processes. Love it.
Yeah.
Where can people learn more about at Method Q, about you, Natalie, about anything that we spoke about here today?
What was your question? Sorry.
Where can people
Beginning.
learn more about
Oh, where can
Method
purple?
Q
Okay.
or you in general?
Yeah, so I'm really active on LinkedIn. So always follow me on LinkedIn, Natalie Hogg, CEO of MethodQ, and methodq.com is the best place to go to learn more about our agency.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Chris. I look forward to seeing what comes of this interview.
Yeah, no problem.